episode 25. Today we are here with Professor Kellie Carter Jackson. She's a historian, writer, and cultural critic, and she unflinchingly connects the dots between Black history and Black futures. She is the chair of Africana Studies at Wellesley College and author most recently of We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance. She is also a familiar voice from NPR, MSNBC, and the podcast circuit. Whether she's unpacking the legacy of Harriet Tubman or calling out media blind spots, Jackson reminds us that history is not past. It is an urgent business. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. That was such an introduction. Thank you so much.
So for those of you out there who don't know you maybe yet, who is Kellie Carter Jackson in your own words?
Oh, that's a good question. I am a scholar, I'm a historian, a podcaster. I'm also a wife and a mom. I have 3 kids. I just celebrated 20 years of marriage, so I'm very happy about that.
Congratulations.
And yeah, I'm a daughter and a friend. I'm one of 7 children. I see myself as a storyteller, I would say. I mean, that's what brings me a lot of joy. My profession is being able to use history as a weapon and as a tool to help us move forward in society.
Very generally speaking, where do you find your fire?
That's a good question. I think I get a lot of my fire from my mom. My mom was also a professor. She's retired, but and my dad for that matter too. Both of them instilled in us a sense of just cultural pride, like the joy of being Black, but also this idea that you won't let anyone deny you. You won't let anyone diminish you or make you small or deny you. And so I've always been big on justice, and I can't stand injustice. I can't stand, even if it's small or insignificant. I don't like it when people are done wrong. And so it's just translated into my work. I think every Black person that I study is a champion or an activist for justice. Every white person or person of color that I'm looking at is doing something to make the world a better place. And I study them to figure out tips and tactics and okay, what worked for them? Okay, what didn't work for them? Yeah. And those things really, I don't know, they get me excited. My students say I'm really passionate in the classroom. And I think that's true. It's hard for me to contain the joy that I get from teaching and researching and writing.
You mentioned your parents and maybe also cultural artifacts, books, songs, thinkers that have shaped your work the most.
So there's probably 2 reasons I came to history as a kid. Mm-hmm. That was a book by Mildred D. Taylor called Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Yeah. And it's a children's book. It came out years ago. But it was the first book that I cried when I read it. I had a real emotional response when I read the book. I also read the American Girl books like Addie. She was the first Black historical character that they had. And I just loved her story. She's enslaved for the first book, but she escaped slavery. And then the rest of the series is how she lives her life out free in Philadelphia. Those books imprinted on me. I mean, they had such an impact that going forward, when I got to college, I started out as a journalism major, actually, because I wanted to tell stories. And it wasn't until the end of college where I realized, oh, you know what? I don't know if I like having a deadline this tight. Because journalism, you got to write it in. But I just was inspired by a lot of the work that journalists did. I was inspired by other historians. I love Benjamin Quarles. I love John Hope Franklin. I do a lot of my writing to music too. So when I'm writing, I love to listen to things that just make me feel good. So I listen to a lot of Afro beats. I listen to a lot of NPR Tiny Desk concerts. I love. I think I don't know, I think, you know how for some people, it doesn't take much to fill up their cup to make them happy. My cup is the size of a thimble. It does not take much to make me happy or feel full or joyful. And so I pull on everything.
Excellent. Let's actually jump right into the deep end, like I told you before, and talk about one of the central topics of this series, namely racism. What does racism look like to you right now, today?
What a question to ask during a time like this. In America, racism is everything. Racism, I think Ta-Nehisi Coates said this, racism is gravity. It is the force that holds everything to the ground. You cannot operate outside of the gravity that is racism. Not in the United States. If it is not like a central feature, it is always a factor. It is in sports, it's in health, it's in education, it's in our carceral system, it's in politics, it's in housing policy, it is in child rearing and beauty and culture, and it is everywhere. Right, there are two things that are happening with racism in America. There is anti-Blackness and there's white supremacy. And I see them as like two sides of the same coin. White supremacy being the promotion of all things white. White is good, white is the norm, white is the standard, white is the best, white is power, white is, wealth. It is all these things that are mostly mythical, that are mostly lies, but that's what it represents. And anti-Blackness is how we see Blackness as deficient or defunct or problematic. And I'm constantly battling those two ideas. How do I dismantle white supremacy? No, whiteness is not divine. And how do I dismantle anti-Blackness? No, there's nothing wrong with Black people. And I think Black people spend much of their lives, if not, unfortunately, their entire lives, trying to combat racism, trying to avoid racism. And it's just that big of a feature. I tried to shrink it in my life though. I try to like I remember my parents, they had this game where they were like, we talk about racism every day. We talk about white people every day. They don't talk about us. They're like, let's see how long we can go without talking about whiteness. They could not go a day. They could not go a day. I think that tells you something.
And are there still, I know this is a bit of a delicate question, but stories or insights from your own life that still kind of sit heavy
Oh man, I mean, I think part of it, gosh, it's so much. I think part of it, wealth is a big part of that. So in the US, a lot of your wealth comes from your parents, comes from inheritance, comes from your home where you live. It comes maybe from your educational status, what you've been able to achieve. And in Black America, wealth is so difficult to generate and so difficult to pass down and to maintain. And I think about that a lot because they say it takes about 5 generations to generate wealth. And, but you can't pass down what you don't have. And so in my family life, I think about how, my grandfather had a 3rd grade education. He never went to middle school, let alone high school or college. My grandmother went to the 8th grade, but that was it. She was a domestic worker. She was a housekeeper. She cleaned people's houses. She was very smart. She was very talented. But she could never get out of that level of just paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. And I think about my own parents who have degrees and have done very well for themselves, and yet the wealth is just not there. And that is what I feel a lot in my daily struggle, because it's like, money. Like I feel like, and money is so tethered to race. It's not even about how hard you work. Like when my grandmother passed away, I didn't get a check. There was no inheritance. And then I talked to my white friends and they're like, oh yeah, I got $250,000. I was like, what now? You got what now? Oh, my parents just gave me a house. What now?
250,000 sounds more like student debt.
Yes, it's crazy. And so when They did a study in Boston that found that the average white Bostonian had $247,000 in net wealth. And Black families had $8. $8.
Yeah.
Like $250,000, $8.
Yeah.
You can't catch up, even in a lifetime, in 2-3 lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I feel that daily. But then there's also like the microaggressions, the little things that people either say to you or to your children, the competitiveness that comes out. Like, I feel that all the time. And sometimes I can, dismiss it or whatever, but it's always there. The fact that my children go to school, I love this school, but they're one of a handful of Black kids. There are not a lot of Black kids in their school. And I think about how that impacts them to not have a single Black teacher, to not have a single Black person in authority over their lives. That means a lot to me, that I have to try to combat that or try to supplement that as much as I can, to put them in things where they're not the only Black kid. And that's hard. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, we've mentioned this topic, or it has come up quite a few times in the interview, this lack or paucity of role models in positions of popularity and authority, which then when we do have them, it is really incredible. I was just thinking of Viola Davis and Lewis Hamilton and all mixed up, but it's beautiful to see. And of course, then also the responsibility that comes with.
Yeah, but representation matters because, it sounds corny, like when you see it, you can be it. But like, that's real. I did not think about Formula One racing until Lewis Hamilton came along. You know what I mean? I did not think about history really until I saw other Black historians that were doing this work, that were being professors, and not just professors, but getting promoted and becoming chairs and deans and presidents of colleges. Like, it matters having Black people in positions of power. But I will say this, I think this is also important. It's not just about having a Black face in a high place. If your politics don't align with the collective sort of activism of Blackness, then I don't want it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need someone like Clarence Thomas, who's a Supreme Court justice. You might say, hey, he's a Black judge. He's on the highest court in the law. Yeah, but his politics, no, they don't align. You know what I mean? Like, so you want someone who's not just there, but who's actually doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking of, I forget her name, but the senator lady from Texas, I believe.
Oh, Senator from Texas. Is she Black or white?
She's been on the news, and she was one of the few people who have really been putting up a big public struggle against the politics.
Jasmine Crockett. Is it Jasmine Crockett?
Exactly.
Yes. House of Representatives. Yeah. She's great. She's doing the work.
She's really amazing. And then, the 4 poles we're going to talk about. The racism is, as you've described it in this powerful metaphor of the gravity. And I like to think of a countervailing force of diversity. And I wanted to ask you, what does meaningful diversity look like to you in practice?
That's such a good question. Diversity looks like a multitude of different people coming together and working for a greater good. Like, when I walk into a room, I don't want to be the only Black person. I don't want Asians to be the only Asians. I don't want to have to be a spokesperson for all things women or all things Black. I think real integrated diversity looks like equity. And when I say equity, I think that's really important because that's different from equality. I'm not talking about like, equality is, we have 25% Black and 25% white and 25% Latino, 25% Asian, like that. I'm not talking about the equal in terms of that number. I mean, to be in a space where everyone's needs are met, where everyone is seen, where everyone is validated. I don't think you get great ideas without diversity. I don't think you get great conversations without diversity. I don't think you get dynamic relationships without friction. I think people want workplaces or jobs that are frictionless, where they can just interact with people and not have to come up against difference. We all think the same. That's terrible. That's real. Friction is what creates beautiful pieces of work. Friction is what creates policy that works for everyone. Diversity is what works for everyone. And there's so much that comes about because other people are in the room. I think about, and this is very a simple example of the space program. And I think about how Black women were the computers, how they were the mathematicians, how they helped launch astronauts into space. And they did that against incredible odds. They did that when people did not want to give them those positions or did not want to give them a chance. And it makes me think oh my gosh, could we have gotten to the moon 100 years earlier if we had not been racist and sexist? What could we have done sooner if we had not been so restrictive in our thinking? I think it's sad that in 2025, we still have first Black CEO of this, first woman, yada, yada. It's 2020. How long have we been living on this planet? That's a shame. That is not a credit. That is not a credit. It should not take that long for us to see certain people in positions of authority, or even certain people just in the room, or at the table. So diversity means a lot to me, and it is everything. And it's not just a buzzword. I think people throw that around almost like a slur. Oh, you want diversity, or DEI, she's a DEI hire, that's how it's been weaponized so that people won't want those things. But I don't know how you can make a business or really do anything of consequence that is good and worthy without diversity.
And I was also thinking about the third post, so racism, diversity, and then narrowing the focus a bit down to the individual agency. For you, when did you first feel it, and in what situation do you feel it the most, the sense of agency?
That's a good question. I think I probably have the most agency when I'm writing, because nobody can really control or have say over my writing. I mean, certainly there's editors, there's people that give you feedback and that strengthen your work, and that's always a good thing. But my most powerful tool is the pen. You know what I mean? And I take that from the abolitionists. I studied the abolitionists. My first book, Force and Freedom, was all about the abolitionist movement. And they valued fighting back. They valued what the pistol could do, but they also valued the pen. And so they published, newspapers, they wrote slave narratives. The word was so important, spreading it, decimating it, getting ideas out into the public. And so whether I'm writing a book, or I'm writing an op-ed, or I'm doing a journal for a scholarly article, even if I'm just editing something that's for a podcast, writing, thinking, speaking, that is when I feel most empowered. And because I know my stuff, you know what I mean? I think that's so important. I have studied for years to be an expert in my field of history, and I feel emboldened. Now listen, you might not be able to tell me about biochemistry, but I know history. You know what I mean? I know history, and that makes me feel empowered. And so I love being able to write. And the flip side of that is I love being able to teach. The classroom for me is where I get a lot of my agency. It's where I can help spread ideas in a very collective sense. And it's so gratifying to me. So, but also, I think, again, it comes back to childhood. My parents always instilled in me, you stand up for yourself, you stand up for other people. You have agency, you have self-determination. And I've never let go of that.
That's beautiful to hear. Then, so we have these three, racism, diversity, agency, and the final one is also along the axis of discrimination, sexism. How does it intersect with the work you do?
You know, sometimes that's hard to tell. Well, not all the time, but because I'm a Black woman, sometimes it's hard to tell, am I being discriminated against because I'm a woman? Am I being discriminated against because I'm Black? Am I being discriminated against because I'm young-ish? You know, I don't feel young, but it depends on what space I'm in, what room I'm in. Sometimes it's hard to tease out or separate why I'm being targeted or why someone is trying to diminish me. But it is something that, like, when I'm writing, while my primary focus has been like Black research and Black history and the experiences of Black people, because Blackness globally is always on the bottom. I feel like when I champion for equity and equality and justice for Black people, I'm doing it for everyone. I'm doing it for women. I'm doing it for the LGBTQ community. I'm doing it for disabled people. I'm doing it for all people of color. I'm doing it for poor people. Because when you dismantle that anti-Blackness and white supremacy, you impact everything, like everything. The Kombayi River Collective was a group founded by Black women, and they said that when you work for the elevation of Black women, you work for the elevation of everyone, because our oppression impacts everything. And I don't think they're wrong about that. I don't think that you can, talk about discrimination and not talk about sexism and how it has impacted women's lives, but not just women's lives, also men's lives. That women just aren't pigeonholed. Men get pigeonholed too by gender and sexism. And how do we combat that? And so, again, my work is always just about bringing justice in the places where there is injustice and shining a light on things and letting history sort of be a roadmap to sort of say, like, hey, listen, this is how we've done it before and it didn't work. Or this is how we've done it before and it was quite effective. Like, how do we use history as a tool to combat some of these isms, sexism, classism, racism, homophobia? Those are all things that I'm just deeply invested in. And the thing about it is that, like, we can all do this work. You don't have to be a historian. What I love is that my passion aligns with the work that I want to do. But if you're an artist, let your art do that work. If you're an engineer, let your engineering do that work. If you're a nurse or a doctor, like, you can work to create pockets of equity and justice in whatever it is that you do. I actually don't think we're going to conquer these things with, like, some sort of ginormous policy or law. That could be part of it, right? But most of it is going to be how we engage as individuals, how we engage with each other on a much smaller sort of local level. And that local will filter up, to the powers that be. But I don't think you can just sort of top down enforce your will on people like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, I always try to tell my students that they are in fact history or part of history, because we have this feeling sometimes, or it's being conveyed in the media, that it takes place at this high level of politics and economics. But really, when you look at it, it's all these little changes of people one-to-one in daily life that make a difference.
It's true.
Just needs so much patience.
Yes, it's true. Patience and courage. That's really it. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to wait for it, but also you got to be willing to confront it. And a lot of us don't have the courage to confront those things in front of us. And so, but you're absolutely right.
So I'd like to shift a bit towards, actually, it's perfect segue, what you just talked about now, towards scholarship and also more of the history aspect. Why do you think public scholarship matters today?
Oh, it matters so much. I think that one of the things I push back a lot in my own field is that when historians often write books, we don't write for the public. we write for other scholars. So if I'm putting together a journal for the Journal of American History, it's not an article that most people are going to read. It's going to be read by, a few dozen people in my field or something like that. But the ideas that are being generated in the academy by scholars who are doing this work is really, really important. But sometimes it never filters down to the masses, or it can take a really long time to filter down to the public. And so public engagement to me is taking those big, intense ideas and making them accessible so that the public can consume them, so that the public can grapple with those ideas. And so maybe someone won't read a book, but they'll read an op-ed. Or maybe someone won't read an op-ed, but they'll listen to a podcast. Or maybe they won't listen to a podcast, but they'll watch this YouTube, video. So like there are all these different ways in which the public can get access to these really big ideas and think about them and sort of try to tackle them themselves. And I just don't think, there's a one size fits all model. Like what we're doing in graduate school is not always going to be useful for someone who's just trying to educate their kids or who's just trying to have tools for their own, purposes. So public scholarship matters quite a bit. And now more than ever, I feel like part of my activism is getting my work to as many people as possible. And so I write books that are thoughtful. I write books that can be a little intense, but I'm never trying to write in a way that's so esoteric and so inaccessible that nobody can understand it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's something, I'm not dumbing it down. I'm not diluting it. I'm just trying to make it so that you can digest it. And I think that's fair. You don't give a toddler steak and say, you can't chew it, too bad. Like you cut it up for them. You chop it up into tiny pieces. You say, okay, here's one little piece. All right, now take another bite. Like, I think there are ways that you can present scholarship that's meaningful to people and accessible to people. And public scholarship does that. I love podcasting. I love writing an op-ed. It's certainly easier than writing a book. Like, tell me I've got 1,000 words as opposed to 80,000 words. Like, I'm all in.
And moving in, focusing a bit more narrowly on one specific idea of yours, and I hope I get this correct. What made you want to challenge this non-violence saint myth?
Yes.
What was your inspiration?
That's such a good question. So in my latest book, We Refuse, and even somewhat in Force and Freedom, I look at the binary of violence and nonviolence. And I really pose the idea that this is not a useful binary. That when we say like, you can only be nonviolent, you can only march, you can only protest. Well, what if marching and protesting is actually not effective? What if it doesn't really do anything? Like, I think we need new tools. I think we need to expand what options are available to us. And I think that sometimes we need to rethink how we even evaluate violence or force. And not to say like, hey, go out there and burn it all down. No, but like, I do think there are ways in which force has been useful in expediting change and making change come even faster. Like, I think about that a lot in certain protest movements where, people are not getting the media attention, they're not getting sort of eyes or ears on the ground. And so how do you get people to not just pay attention, but to also want to change? And I don't know, in the summer of 2020, when we had this like really global racial reckoning is what it was called, I was sort of disillusioned by that. I felt like, all right, you're gonna have all these people marching, millions of people all over the country are marching, they're protesting. And what change did we get out of that? What was the solution? We got some statues taken down. We got some, signs changed. We got Aunt Jemima, changed on the pancake box. We got like symbolic tokens or trinkets. Target was like, we're gonna all be about diversity. And within 6 months, you had a huge backlash, anti-DEI, anti-CRT. Within 6 months of George Floyd being killed, you have January 6th, people literally trying to attack the federal government, attack lawmakers, and overthrow the government. Those marches, those protests did not work. They were ineffective. They did not create massive policy change. They did not change people's ideas or sentiments. 5 years later, we're even more like dug into how we think about racism and sexism and all these isms. We have made no progress. So that to me says, well, maybe the march isn't useful. Maybe it is not. And maybe we only have the march because the powers that be know it's not useful. They know it's not effective. And so we say, yes, protest, march, because nothing's going to change. And that's what we want. So my book is about like, okay, well then how do we develop these other ideas that have been effective? And what's the best way to look at that? I think history. So I look at revolution. I look at, my books are made in it's 5 chapters. It's revolution, it's protection, it's force, it's flight, and joy. And people are like, joy? Yes, joy is a weapon. Like how you live your life, how you create culture, how you fortify yourself, how you protect yourself. Joy is also a weapon in that. And flight is a part of that. There are a lot of people right now that are like wanting to leave the country, wanting to go elsewhere. People are thinking about how they can use force. How can you use force like a boycott? Like force is not just violence. Force is a strike. Force is, well, maybe I withhold my dollar and I don't shop at Target anymore, or I don't shop at Walmart anymore. Force can be a lot of different things. And so I think we have to get clever and creative about how we combat these systems, because a protest, no shade, but it's not going to do it. It will bring attention and it will bring, what I love about a protest is that it brings people together of like mind so that you feel encouraged. So think about like how when you go to like a football game or a soccer game and you are with all the fans and everyone's wearing red or everyone's wearing green and you're like, yeah, we're all on the same team and we feel good and we're cheering. And, like that's what a protest is. Like you feel good being around like-minded people. You feel good being around everyone who is rooting for the same thing. And that has its place. I don't want to say it doesn't have its place, but like but what does that do in the larger scheme of things? Like, I don't want to just be a fan of activism. I don't want to just be a spectator of activism. Like, gathering and being in community is important. It's important to be encouraged with other people, but that can't be the finish line. That might be the study point. We're like, that may be somewhere along the line we meet up and we gather. But that can't be it. That cannot be the totality of our activism. And for so long, for too long, that is what we've done. We've said, you got 2 options. You can throw a Molotov cocktail or you can march. You throw a Molotov cocktail, you're going to be in prison or dead. You march, nothing's going to change. But those are the options.
Quite limited.
That's not good.
Yeah, so really a multi-pronged approach to what resistance can be.
Yes.
There would be so many avenues to further pursue these questions, but I'm just gonna ask you, jump right to the next one in terms of your personal experience of navigating power, racism, and respect in institutions and in the US. What have been your experiences?
Gosh, so much. I think a lot of my experience has been frustration because I realized that, I feel like King, he's like, I may not get to the promised land. I may not get there with you. That kind of feeling of like, I know that I am working on something that I will likely never see. And I think that that's really hard to do the work that you might not benefit from, but maybe your children might, or maybe your children's children might. I think about the abolitionists in particular because if you had told them in 1832 that like, oh, slavery is going to be abolished in another 20 years, you know, like no one would know that, you know, no one would know that. Like you have to keep doing the work even when you don't know what the timeline for it will be. And I don't even think people, you know, in 1859 knew, oh, slavery's over in a year. Slavery's over in 2 years. You know, we're at war and then it's done. You know, like no one could have predicted that. And so I try to work and write and teach and use my activism in a way where justice is just around the corner. I don't know when it's coming, but what if it's just a couple years away? What if it's closer than I think it is? What if all of the resistance that we're seeing, all of these crackdowns, all of these laws, all of this racism, what if this is the final breath of that system collapsing? What if it's actually not at its strongest point, but at its weakest point? Now that may be a very glass half full, you know, perspective. But part of the reason I think like that is because, one, you have to have hope. If you don't have hope, you're dead in the water. You are dead in the water. Hope is not naivete. Miriam Kaba said, hope is a discipline. Hope is a discipline. You have to be committed to what you are doing and actually believe in it. And so I think oftentimes what has to be tethered with our work, with our hope, has to be joy. Has to be joy. Like, I know too many people, you will burn out, you will die at 59 if you do not like carve out spaces of joy for yourself. And so a lot of times I'm like, you know what, this job's not gonna kill me. I'm like, this job is not going to take the best of me. I'm going for a bike ride, or I'm gonna go make bread in my kitchen. I'm gonna do something with my kids. We're gonna watch a silly movie, or I'm going to do something for someone else. I'm gonna make something for someone else. I'm gonna buy a gift for someone. I'm gonna bring someone else joy. You know, I'm gonna call all my girlfriends together and say, let's meet up in my backyard and have a garden party. Like, that's what I'm doing next Saturday. And I feel so dumb because I was like, Kelly, you throwing a garden party? But I had watched Meghan Markle's like Meghan with Love on Netflix, and I was like, oh, I love how she just, you know, it's like so simple, like just finding joy, like doing things for other people. And people poo-poo it or diminish it, but that's part of the work too, is fortification. Like, how do we affirm one another? How do we say, you know what, I made this jam for you, like I thought you could enjoy it over the bread that I just baked. You know, like it may seem small, but someone like, bread, jam, you know, like, and next thing you know, like that gets you through the week, you know, like, so I think we need laughter. I think we need to be able to poke fun at things that are ridiculous. I think we need to be able to just carve out, it's my phone. Silence my phone. But I think we need to silence our phones. No, I think those things matter to me quite a bit when I am like navigating my joy and my work, and making sure that I have equal space in both places, because I don't want to die burnt out because I've never carved out space for just joy or nothingness. You know, that matters too. My favorite thing in the world is to have a day where I have nothing on the calendar.
Properly
like,
relax.
It's my favorite thing.
I think you actually might have with this already substantially answered the next question, which is going to be Roxanne Gay. She once said, "I'm not your diversity hire." And I had one of my interviewees, Fatima Moumouni, a playwright, who said she's sick and tired of being the racism auntie, of always having to answer all these questions. So, your take on fatigue and always having to be the representative. You've mentioned joy is
there's some things that I thoroughly enjoy doing. I'm not gonna lie. I love teaching. I love it. It is part of my gifting and talent, and I love being able to teach. But there is a reason professors have sabbatical. There is a reason that professors go on leave, and it's because they have to replenish themselves, and it's because they have to take time for their own like thought process. And so I no, I don't want to be someone's diversity hire, but I also recognize that like when I'm in the room, I don't want to just be the only person in the room, that I am constantly trying to open up doors for others, mentor others, lift and climb, you know, lift and climb, like bring other people with me. There are some Black people that are more than happy to be the only Black person in the room. They think they get all the attention, it's great. I think that's antithetical to liberation. But at the same time, I think if you are the only Black person in the room, like you can get exhausted by having to explain. And so one of the things that I've appreciated is that when I have white colleagues or other colleagues of color that will pitch in and do the work. And literally it has to come from other white people. Like one of the things that has really inspired me and brought me a lot of joy is seeing the protest around the country and seeing that it is predominantly white people at the protest. And I'm like, great, y'all do this work. I'm at home. Like you be on the front lines now. Like you do this work, and I 100% support it, because for years, for decades, we've been saying, look, white people step up, white people help out, white people, like this is your job. Like, and to me, there's nothing more potent to white supremacy than whiteness dismantling itself, right? Then a white person using their privilege and leverage to say, actually, I don't want this, right? Like, this is not how it should be. Like, I can say that, and it's like, oh, of course you feel like that, you're Black. But like when white people push back on whiteness, when they push back on white supremacy, that to me is one of the most potent tools. It's what they should be doing. And so sometimes I think it's fair to say, no, my cape is still in the closet. Like I'm on holiday and you go do this work. And then when I've been replenished, I will tap back in. I will plug back in. I will be right there with you. But right now, like I saw an article in the Atlantic and I was so annoyed. It was like, oh, President Obama, he's not speaking up. Where is he? He needs to come more into the limelight. He needs to give another. I was like, he did 8 years. He did his job. He did his job. If he wants to go surfing in Hawaii, let him. Like, this is not his problem. Stop trying to get Black people to do your work. Like, stop trying to get people who are resting to get back in. You get in the ring. Like, he's been in the ring. He did his time. He served. He did his duty to God and country, right? Like, so there's no need for him to make a speech. There's no need for him to campaign. There's no need for like, and the other thing is, I just feel like, I think Eugene V. Debs says this, the socialist and labor leader. He says, I don't want to be your leader, because if I can lead you into the promised land, somebody can lead you out. Like you need people power. People have to do this themselves. So I push back on the idea that Black women in particular, that us as leaders have to constantly be intervening, cleaning up, calling out. No, this is a collective operation. You know, there's a reason I titled my book, We Refuse, and not I Refuse. No, we refuse. Because this work has to be done collectively.
It's a shared responsibility. Speaking of your new book, We Refuse, what does refusal, or maybe I should say now, what else?
Like I've got the book right here.
Yes, and the beautiful picture in the background.
Yes, this is the art by Taha Clayton. It's called, the painting itself is called Soldier of Love. Yeah. Beautiful painting. It's a painting first, and then my publisher saw it and said, that's beautiful. I think this is the cover to Kellie's book. I think this would be great. Yeah. And so when I saw the image, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, we have to make it the cover. Yes. And because authors, I don't know if people know this, but authors don't get control over their covers or their title. Like the marketing and the art department, they put all of that together. Yeah. But it was so nice to be able to be considered to say like, hey, do you like this? And what do you think the title should be? And I came up with Read Refuse, and they said, okay, we'll do that. That's not often the case. Usually you don't get a lot of control, but yeah, I'm so proud of the book, the cover. For cover to cover, I feel good about it.
Well, what does refusal mean to you politically, historically, personally?
Refusal is so important. Refusal to me, I say this a lot, that like resistance is how we respond to white supremacy, how we strike, how we boycott, how we fight back. But refusal is why. Why are you resisting? That is what refusal is. It gets at the heart of the matter. Refusal is, oh, here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to treat me like I'm not a person. Refusal is saying like, I refuse to be treated less than I should be. I refuse to live in a world where we throw people away, where we harm children, where violence is the status quo, where oppression is the status quo. I refuse. And that why of refusal to me is everything. It gets at the heart of our humanity. What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to interact with other human beings and to live in a world that is peaceful and just and good and kind? I think we should all be refusing the things that are violent and harmful and treacherous. You know, like to me, it is a stance. It's a mantra, it's a motto. It is a way of living. It is a way of saying, setting the terms of how people should be treated. I remember, I'll never forget this. I think I told you I'm one of 7 kids, and my mom took us to the grocery store. And imagine, you know, this Black woman going to the grocery store with all of her kids. And she just went in to get milk. Like that was it. Like she's like, we're doing this quick, running in to get milk, and that's it. Yeah. So, and like, don't ask for anything, don't touch anything. Like, you know, I know she was stressed. She worked a full day. She had to come home, like do all this stuff. So we go to the grocery store and she's standing in line, and there's another woman in front of her who has a whole like conveyor belt filled with groceries. It's like packed. And so the woman in front of her forgets something. Maybe she forgot butter, bread, I don't know. So she goes, oh, I forgot something. And she leaves to go get it. And so my mom was like, well, I'm not waiting for her. So I just have milk. So my mom goes to the front of the line, she checks out. And as she's checking out, the woman comes back and says, oh, you cut in front of me in line. You took my place in line. And my mom was like, all I have is milk. You have all of this stuff. I'm done now. Like, and the woman's like, well, next time, maybe I won't let you do that. And my mom said, next time. And I have never seen my mom go off on someone. She said, no, I want to know what you're going to do right now. What are you going to do right now? Like, and I was like, oh my God, my mom's about to fight someone in the store.
That's funny.
So embarrassed. But it was like, that to me was the epitome of refusal. It was like, you are not going to talk crazy to me. You see me with these 6 kids, you see me with a gallon of milk, like you will not come at me. But that spirit of refusal, like, was just, I don't know. I think that was like a moment in my childhood that has also been imprinted on me. I've never forgot it. And yeah, I'm constantly refusing.
That's a great anecdote. Were there some of the characters in your book that kind of caught you off guard?
There is one woman in chapter 1 in the Revolution chapter. Her name is Solitude. She was an enslaved woman in Guadeloupe and got her freedom and lived among the Maroons for about 8 years. And France decided that it wanted to re-enslave Guadeloupe and Martinique and attack the French Antilles. And so she becomes this freedom fighter. But when she does, she's about 7 or 8 months pregnant. And I was like, what? If you are in Guadeloupe or if you are in France, there's actually a statue to her, where you see her with her sort of full, beautiful, pregnant belly. But as a mom, as someone who's had 3 kids, I can't imagine being fully pregnant and fighting the French and going to war and being willing to risk everything, not for myself, but for the liberation, for the freedom of my child, my unborn child. Yeah. That to me was just, her story sticks with me a lot. You know, she is not successful. She gets captured. And because she's pregnant, they wait till she has her baby and then they execute her, they hang her. And part of the folklore or part of the story is that when she goes to the gallows, that her shirt is stained with breast milk. And it's just knowing that she was a mother, knowing that she risked her life, that she gave up her life to fight for the freedom of herself, her daughter, her people, her island, is just so powerful. And I think part of it's powerful too, because we attribute soldierhood to men. Men fight, men go out to battle, men do these things, men win wars. And to see a young woman pregnant doing those things, like, it's just incredible to me. Solitude's story will forever stick with me as an example of revolutionary violence and what it means to fight for a revolution, to fight for change. But there's so many women in this book that are known and unknown, that are just doing incredible things. And not because they're extraordinary, but just because they're courageous, you know, just because they are unwilling to live in a world that will not grant them the freedom they deserve. And so I'm always in awe by people like, you know, Fannie Lou Hamer or Harriet Tubman or Daisy Bates. Like, their refusal is just members of the Black Panther Party. You know, I talk about members of my own family. I talk about my mother. I talk about my grandmother. Their stories just inspire me.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of different characters in this book of yours. And now I was thinking, in the present, the reactions, are there some reactions to We Refuse that have lingered?
I've been kind of shocked by the response to this book, partially because I thought I was going to get a lot of pushback. You know, like, there's a woman on the cover with a gun, you know, like, not only is there a woman on the cover with a gun, but like her fingers are right over FU, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very forceful cover. And I expected to get a lot of pushback. I expected for people to be, I don't know, maybe hesitant in reading it. And it's been quite the opposite. I've been shocked by how many people have said how much the book impacted them, how much the book has changed their lives, how much the book has made them rethink about things. I actually am shocked that I have not gotten a lot of criticism. And I expected that. You know, there's always sort of like things you can do better or whatever. But I thought that I would have like an onslaught of attack. And thank God I have not gotten that. I've gotten a lot of support, a lot of encouragement. There was a time where every day, every 3 days, certainly once or twice a week, I was getting an email from somebody that just said, hey, I read your book. I loved it. It meant so much to me. This is my favorite book. I'm telling everyone about this book. And as an author, you can't ask for a better reception. You know, I tell people all the time, all authors just want to be read. We write to be read. And so you don't have to like it. But if you gave me your money and you gave me your time, which is more valuable than money, then I'm grateful. Even if you didn't like it, I'm grateful because you gave me your time. And so for people to really appreciate it, it just means a lot.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm still presently stuck in a book by Mr. Howard French, but
oh, that's such a good book. The one about Africa. Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So the second to last part, I thought we could try this. I call it non-trigger trigger, and they are triggers for thought, but hopefully not trigger, in the traumatic sense. And then, whatever pops into your head, you can just give a brief ad lib.
Sure.
Okay. Revolution.
Freedom.
That was going to be the next word, freedom.
When I think of freedom?
Yeah.
When I think of freedom. Yeah. And when I think of freedom, I think of liberation.
Born in blackness.
Beauty.
Then she has come up a few times. Harriet Tubman.
Brilliant, courageous, icon.
Legacy.
Ancestors, children, grandchildren. I think family.
Then glory versus justice, or glory and justice.
Ooh, that's good. When I think of glory and justice, I think of something that hopefully is not too far away. So soon.
Fugitive.
When I think of fugitive, I think of people who are refusing to be enslaved.
Black Lives Matter.
Basic.
Yeah.
When I say basic, I mean like that's the bottom. That's if we don't matter, we can't even have a conversation. That's basic.
Yeah. What power forgets?
Power never intentionally forgets. Power purposely forgets to keep you unempowered.
CLR James.
Icon. Revolutionary. I think of Haiti.
Obama.
It's complicated. I think so much. First, I think cool, and I think complicated. Yeah, he's the first Black president. He certainly has the cool factor that I can't seem to relinquish, but I think his legacy is complicated and cannot be distilled down into just a few words.
Then final one. I'm sorry, it's a bit egocentric, but I'm just curious. Black, brown, yellow, white.
The world. I think the world. I think that encompasses all of us, right? Like all of our humanity. And it gets us to think color is so simplistic, and yet that sort of is the essence of it. It's just color. We're just human beings, and it's a powerful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay, thank you very much. That was really a good one, because essentially, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think people struggle quite a bit, but this one was just aces.
Yay!
Get an A. I just
get an A.
This is very subjective, very subjective.
That makes me very happy.
The very, very, very last bit is very straightforward. Like, what are some of the practices, could be daily or otherwise, that keep you anchored in this my
That's good. My husband and my children keep me really grounded. They really my family keeps me very anchored. I think my husband is my biggest fan, but also he'll be quick to tell me like, no, you don't need to do that. No, have a seat. Or, yo, you need to do this. You know, like he's very good at that. I think that my kids keep me grounded a lot too, because, you know, I could do some big famous thing and my son would just be like, can I have a snack? You know what I mean? Like they're very, you know, sort of like, they keep you, they never let you forget that you are a parent first. Like, and I get a lot of joy from them. Their laughter, having conversations with them, seeing how they're coming into themselves has just been very good for me. And I think in a world in which people are having their kids snatched away from them, living in fear about whether or not they'll be picked up by ICE, worried about their children's safety constantly, like worried about their well-being. I feel so privileged to have healthy, happy children. That's just huge. It's major for me. And honestly, if that's all I have, nothing else kind of matters. Like, it's just a big factor.
Are there maybe also some, like, you know, rituals or habits or things of nature which you implement?
One of the things I've been doing a lot is listening to music first thing in the morning. Before normally when I get up in the morning, I pray. But sometimes my prayers can turn into laundry lists of just like, and then you gotta do this, and you gotta do this, and I need this, and I need that. It's like, wait, no. Like, I always have a prayer for gratitude. I always have that. But then I start listening to music because I used to listen to the news first thing in the morning, like either the news, like NPR, a podcast, something like that, while I'm like either in the shower, getting ready for my day. And it just was not a good way to start the day because it gave me anxiety. Like the moment I wake up, they're like, 10 people died in a plane crash. And you're like, oh God, I don't want to like. So now I listen to music because it brings me joy and it puts me in a good mood and it sets me on like a path to like endure the rest of the day. So yeah, and coffee, like that is, if I can have coffee in the morning, I am a happy person. And I also like looking outside a lot. We are surrounded by a lot of trees. There are a lot of trees around us, and trees just make me feel so good. And so sometimes it's just taking 5-10 seconds to just look outside and to listen to the birds and take that in, and then kind of like, okay, let's start the day, you know. But pausing for reflection, having music sort of fortify me. I've been listening to a lot of Stevie Wonder. Love Stevie Wonder. And a lot of Coldplay. I don't know why, but like those are, and gospel music. Those are the things that like kind of start my day off right. Kind of eclectic.
I really like that today that we have this possibility of accessing all these different musical sources of inspiration. Suddenly they come into our lives and we're listening to Stevie Wonder, Coldplay, Japanese piano music or whatever it might be.
Yes, Afro beats. Yes, I love it all. I love it all.
For those teaching or parenting or organizing right now, what is like one historical lesson that you kind of wish that more people could act on?
In the classroom specifically, I think one thing I would want teachers or educators to do is to just incorporate more people, more diverse stories into their teaching, and to make things complicated so that students will think. Like you can talk about George Washington being a great military leader, but you can also talk about him being a slaveholder. And he's both at the same time. You know what I mean? You can be a great president and kind of a crappy person. You can be both. Like, and I think getting students to understand that like people are more than just one thing. And we don't have to always teach the same people, that I can introduce you to someone like Solitude or to someone like other people that are fighting for revolutionary goals. I think students want that. I think they want new narratives or fresh narratives. So my goal is to always either tell you something new or teach you something new about someone you thought you knew.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking I've been doing the same recently, especially in history, because I read The Dawn of Everything, and it basically tells how the Enlightenment was so much influenced by native North Americans. And
Yes.
I thought that's good to know, because it's not in the Swiss history books, and it's important for them to know that this is not just these 2 or 3 white men who came up with it. It's influenced by many different parts of the world. So it's it makes it, as you say, it makes it complicated and not straightforward. But at the same time, I do think it helps people think about all the different sources our history flows from.
And we can handle the complicated. Nothing is really straightforward. Nothing is ever just one thing. So and we can handle that. Our minds have the capacity to handle that.
Yeah, exactly. Can you name maybe a few books or podcast thinkers series that we should be engaging with at this moment?
Oh yeah. I mean, okay, shameless plug, my own podcast, This Day. We drop 3 times a week. I co-host it with Nikki Himmer and the host Jody Evergan. We have a really good time, and we just bring you history. And we tell you on this day in history, we tell you what happened, but we also tell you why it matters. And I've been doing that podcast for almost 4 years now, and it's just been really, really fun to do. When I'm listening to podcasts, I listen to a lot of things. I listen to The Daily, which is the New York Times podcast. I listen to Trevor Noah's podcast, What Now? I think it's really smart and also really fun. And I like things that are really smart and fun. Because sometimes, because my work is so serious, I can't do things that are like completely serious. But sometimes I can't do things that are vapid either. So I need like a good, balance. For books right now, I'm reading The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. So, well, I should say I'm listening to it, but same thing. Like I listen to a lot of audio books because I'm always in the car or commuting or traveling and stuff like that. And I just need a good book to read. But I also read a lot of like smut too, like about like fairies and fantasy and them going to war and like crazy stuff like that. And I'm looking at my audiobook collection right now. I also have like a book that I started, A Little Life, which is really good. It's really but it's good. And then I just finished, and I love the book, James by Percival Everett. I'm looking at what's on my bookshelf.
It's good that you mentioned it. I before the interview, I was thinking I wanted to ask you about this book, your thoughts on it.
Oh, on James?
Yeah.
Oh, I love James. I love James. That book was so powerful because I remember in high school having to read Huckleberry Finn and being one of the only few Black kids in the class, just feeling uncomfortable when students would read the N-word, or when students would sort of read with this like animated Southern accent, and just feeling like, why are we reading this? Why is this a classic? Why is this important? But it was such, Huckleberry Finn was such like a beloved required reading among like K through 12. I just felt like an obligation, and I never understood why. And reading James and getting like his perspective and realizing that like, of course he's not an idiot. Of course he's playing these dual roles, because we all wear the mask. We all wear, we all have these 2 sides of ourselves, like Du Bois talks about in Double Consciousness. And it was just so good and refreshing to read someone's like inner thoughts or dialogue outside of white people. You know what I mean? Like, and it felt like every time he was like in conversation with whiteness, you were like, oh. And then every time he was like in conversation with himself or with other people in the Black community, it was like, oh my God, this is so intense. It just, that book stayed with me. And the last line of the book I still think about a lot, which is, to me, like a form of refusal. Well, not to give a whole lot away, but like at the end of the book, they ask him, what's your name? And he says, James. And to me, I'm like, that is a refusal to be called Jim, to be called anything else other than what you want to be referred to as. And I just saw so much of refusal in James's story, and protection, how he was protecting his own identity, protecting himself and others. It's a beautiful book. I highly recommend it. It's deserving of every single award it has won.
Yeah, absolutely. I must say, it's silly, but I was quite disappointed that it didn't get the Booker, because
yeah. But it won the Pulitzer. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It won the National Book Award.
Yeah.
So but he's gonna be fine. Personal effort is gonna be just fine.
It's his name, Yeah, Professor Carter Jackson, thank you so much for doing this interview. It's been
thank you.
Pleasure, inspiring, and just good times. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was my pleasure as well. And keep refusing and seek joy.
Yes, I'll try to do so. That sounds good. Yeah, no, thank you so much for your.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.